Welcome to part 44 of the Dogs of Ancient Egypt. Let's look at dog number 119. Happy birthday! This dog comes from the Mastaba of Nikauhor, who was a judge and a priest of Userkov's Sun Temple and mortuary cult during the 5th dynasty in the Old Kingdom. That's approximately 2465 to 2389 BCE. Nikauhor's wife was named Sekhem Hathor, and she was a priestess of the goddesses Hathor and Neith. The Mastaba was located in the cemetery north of the Djoser complex in Saqqara, which is just south of Giza and Cairo. The Mastaba was excavated in the 1907 to 1908 field season by the English Egyptologist James Cabell. Now, unfortunately, because this was excavated so early, kind of right before the time that archaeology was getting a little bit more scientific, the current location of this mastaba has not been established now in the modern day. Now, this is mostly because the western wall, which you can see a map of here, and you can see in an image right here, was actually removed and sold to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it is still on display to this day. This wall was made out of really good quality limestone and thus was really well preserved, including a lot of the actual paint. But the 3 other walls were made out of a marly local limestone, and they had been exposed to the elements. So these walls were just copied down and then reburied. So we know that the dog in question is located on the eastern wall south of the door, but we actually don't know where that is today. Luckily, Cabell's excavation report, which is Excavations at Saqqara, 1907 to 1908, is free on the Internet Archive. So I was going into some deep dives to try to learn a little bit more about this mastaba and see if there were any other images. The things that I hate that I have to point out is you can see above, not worth copying, traces of men and bulls. And so certain parts, they just decided it's not worth copying or taking any photos, which again, photos are pretty early on in this time period, but early archaeologists can really get on my nerves sometimes. The book does include quite a few of the scenes on the western wall, which is obviously now the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and so you can see images of cattle being slaughtered, offerings being brought to the deceased couple, and even senate being played with musicians next to them on the very top register. There are also remnants of more offering bearers, some sort of brewery maybe, or the making of something up here. And at the very top, there are some really interesting female dancers. But this is the relevant side that we need to talk about today. So we have essentially 3 registers here that are all depicting different parts of a harvest scene. So you have a guy leading some donkeys there at the top and some more donkeys kind of going around probably carrying some sort of their harvest. And at the very bottom, you actually can see them 2 scribes at the very far corner recording all of the different harvest pieces that they are collecting in this section. But this is the section that we are most interested in. So at the very top, you can actually see 2 very large feet on the register essentially that has been destroyed above, and we could probably presume that that is an image of the deceased. Because of the scale of the feet to the people in this register, that person is the most important person in this scene and probably would be Nikauhor. Next, underneath, so here you can actually see a series of attendants. Now, there are 2 very interesting people besides the dog that I'd like to briefly talk about. We have a person with dwarfism over here who actually has a name, presumably above them, and they look like they're holding possibly a necklace. Not 100% sure, but looks like that. And at the very front, the person who's actually leading the dog has some sort of deformity on his shoulder and his back, which is a whole other topic that I can talk about disability in ancient Egypt, like on the side of the dwarfism. There is a whole series I did on dwarfism in ancient Egypt if you didn't see that in the Ask an Egyptologist series somewhere. This little spotted dog is in the very typical Old Kingdom fashion for dogs, with the pointed ears and the very curly Q type tail, also very thin and lean. And this is actually one of the named dogs. So the hieroglyphs above this dog read Mahat, which has been translated into beat to measurement, which is definitely one of the weirder names for ancient Egyptian dogs. And I honestly have absolutely no clue what it might actually mean. So what do you guys think?